Welcome back to math class. Yesterday we talked about a composition of transformation that was a translation and then a reflection. Today we're going to talk about a composition of transformation that's going to be what happens if we have two reflections in a row. And that can happen in two different situations. We can have a reflection over parallel lines and intersecting lines. Those are our two options. Our lines of reflections can either be parallel or they intersect each other. So first things first, if we have two parallel lines, so basically what I'm saying is if I have, maybe it's too close to the, if I have a triangle over here and I want to reflect it across this and then across again, right? I'm saying I'm reflecting it twice over parallel lines. Then what we're going to say today is this is basically the same as if I just took this first triangle and translated it. I translated it along a vector perpendicular to the lines, and twice the distance between the two lines. Twice the distance between the two lines. Okay, let me try a different shape besides triangle. So if I'm going to tell you, here I have a pentagon, nice little guy, and that this is 6 inches. And what I want you to do is reflect our pentagon over this line and then over this line. Now you could go through and measure out what is this distance and put your point and put your point and then your next one and your next one and your last one. And then do the same thing to this side. I don't have a ruler up here, so mine's not exactly perfect. But I could do that where I measure each time and then do it again and take all that time. Or I can know that this point and this one, my final image, is translated along a vector that's perpendicular to these lines. Perpendicular means it's at a right angle, and these points are twice this distance away. So if this is 6, then this one is 12 inches. So essentially this is like a trick to skip this middle step. I don't have to measure and draw this all over again. I just instead of doing both steps, I would find my perpendicular line and then I would measure 12 inches from that point and put me a point. And then I'd go 12 inches from that one, 12 inches from that one, 12 inches from that one, and and 12 inches from that one. And then connect them. And I'd be done without having to do that middle step. So that's if they're parallel. But we might not be asking you might not be asked to reflect something over two parallel lines. You might be asked to reflect something twice over two lines that are intersecting. Okay, so that's parallel lines. With intersecting lines, whereas parallel lines were basically a translation along a specific vector, intersecting lines are basically a reflection over two intersecting lines is basically the same as a rotation around the intersection point so the place where the two lines intersect, through an angle twice the size of the angle formed by the lines. Twice the size of the angle formed by the lines. So, if instead of having two parallel lines like before, I have a line that looks like this, and then one that's going like this, and I'm saying that here's me a line, and I want you to reflect it over this line and this one, and that this angle right here is 30 degrees. What you're going to do, now like I said, just like with the other one, you could go through and you could measure this one is this far away, and this one is this far away. Then do the same thing. And have your rotation, or have your reflection over two, but you're having to then measure each time and draw two shapes when, really, oh, I didn't mean to erase that one. But really you could take this guy, and knowing that this angle is 30 degrees, we can rotate it around our intersection point here 60 degrees, twice this angle, because we're not starting inside the angle, so we're starting here. So what I want is to measure out an angle that's 60 degrees, right, and then then rotate along that line. Just follow your directions for rotations, just like you had before, where if I'm rotating this point here, and I'm going to find from here 60 degrees, whatever that is, and measure how far this is. Say it's 2 inches, then I need 2 inches along this one. That's where this dot goes. I'm going to do the same thing for this dot, is draw my line to there, and measure out 60 degrees, and however many inches away it is, that's going to be where my new dot is. So basically, instead of having to go through the trouble of reflecting it once and then twice, I can know that a reflection is just going to be a rotation, and that this final degrees here is going to be 60 degrees along the whole thing. The initial was 30. After if I'm reflecting it twice, then it's double the degrees. Hopefully that made sense. If you have questions, just let me know. You can put that in the comments of this video or on the Google Classroom, or email me, whatever you need.